tell you when it starts streaming, but just know that there's a delay after I point to you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Teacher Tech. We're Hendry County Schools.
Make sure they can hear you.
My name is Jason Adams. We just want to do a quick sound check. So if you're already with us, thank you very much for joining. If you could please just type in the live chat. We have Miss Michelle Brown with us here today as co-moderator, and she will be answering our questions in the live chat. If you have any questions as we go through this presentation, please add those to the live chat as well. So if you can someone could just please confirm audio for us. We will continue with the presentation today. In this session, we will focus on Google Slides and Google Forms. Good? Okay, so here we go. Up first is Google Slides. So to access Google Slides, we're going to click on this grid, which Google likes to refer to as the waffle. Inside of your waffle, you have all your Google Apps for Education, and here you will access Slides. So if you're new to Google, new to the district, Google Slides is the Microsoft PowerPoint equivalent. Google Slides works in the Google Chrome environment better than PowerPoint because it's more compatible in the ecosystem that we have here established in the school district. All the students have Chromebooks. Google Classroom is our designated learning management system, and therefore the sharing permissions and access to Google Slides will function better and be more functional inside of this environment. So to create a slide, you can start here with a blank slide, but they also have some templates that are also accessible for you. And there is a template gallery for you to search if you would like to get some ideas on how to organize some possible slides. But for this presentation, we will start with a blank slide. So I'm sure most of you have created a presentation or slide deck or PowerPoint at some point in your life. So these are very similar to the general idea of that. You have your formatting options here up top. Your first slide will always be a title deck, a title card, so that you can add this. If you notice here to the right, you have your themes that you can choose. You can scroll down and select the theme. You can also import additional themes that are offered by Google. Just to begin. So I'm just going to choose on one of the basic themes that are offered. And then I'm going to close out of this and begin to create my presentation. So for today's presentation, I'm just going to do a simple slide deck on distance learning. And we will do this so that we have our first slide. Okay. To add the next slide, you just come over here to your plus sign. You have a drop-down arrow. Here you can choose the different layouts that are available. So you can continue on with this, or you can add a caption. You can just add a blank one, and then choose what you want to add to that slide. So we're going to choose blank, just so I can show you some different options inside of slides. Okay. So let's go through some of these tools. But before that, let's go ahead and title this because without a title, you can't share or add collaborators or do anything like that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to add an image. So I'm going to go to Insert Image. I'm going to search the web. Notice I can search for images directly from the Slide app itself. I don't have to open up new tabs or do anything additional. I found an image. I can just click and drag this image over. Resize. And now I have that image ready to go in my next card. So if I want to add text, I can come over here, add a text box. I can click and drag where I want that text to be. I can start to type. And then I can format that text. To look the way that I desire it to look. Typically, text and slides are recommended to be at least 30 point font, and that's just for ease of readability. Some basic tips is that you want to keep your text minimal in your slides. You don't want to type everything that you want to say. There is an excellent box down here, especially for distance learning purposes. If you want to go over what you want your students to see and say, we're going to go over some different options, like how to insert audio, how to insert video, how to play these types of things for your distance learners, so that way whenever you give access to your students for these slides, that they can see those speaker notes, see what you have intended there, and for them to read and say for those slides, so that you don't have to type everything that you want them to see inside of your actual slide card itself. Okay. So notice you can also do your text color, you can highlight, you can hyperlink this. So let's say if you have your distance learning expectations in a separate Word, in a separate Google Doc, then you can hyperlink that here so that they can click and then jump out of this slide presentation so that they can have access to all your rules and expectations for your classroom, for the distance learning expectations, and then your other basic formatting choices, your font color, etc. Okay, you can fill color, do the whole background of the slide. You pretty much have the flexibility and customizability, so that way these cards will present in the fashion that you would like for them to look. So let's go ahead and add another slide. Notice that whenever you click, just click the plus sign without selecting the down arrow, it will just add another slide in the same format as the one prior. So since I created the second one as a blank, I just hit the plus sign. It created the third one as a blank. So here I can change the background. Say now I want to change the color. So I'm going to do a light blue. I'm not going to worry about an image. I'm not going to worry about the theme. I'm going to choose done. Notice also you have an Explore button here. You can search the web, search your docs. Then also whenever you do begin to add additional text inside of this slide, your Explore feature will automatically generate some different layouts for that slide for you to select. you have your transitions. So if you're interested in adding those transitions where you click and your text will slide in or blend in, or images can pop in, then you have those options. So you can do object animations, you can apply these to all slides. These are the different types of transitions that you have available, so that you can add those transitions if you're familiar with those from PowerPoint example. For example, then those transitions are also available here. So let's take a look at what that may look like if we have a couple different bullets or layouts or text. So let's add text box. Do this real quick. Gonna add another. So if I wanted to do this, add animation. Okay, I'm gonna fly out to the left on click, right? And I'm gonna come to this one, text box. I'm gonna add animation, fly out to the top. Right, so then we can see what that looks like. And then we can click. So that's all available and accessible through the transition. Click stop. Close out of the transition box, and we're going to go to the next slide. So here, let's take a look at insert. So these are the different types of options you have with the insert. You can do charts, bar, column, line, pie graphs. You can insert directly from Google Sheets, so if you have data that you want to share from there, data checks, or any kind of other information that you've organized in Sheets, form responses, quiz responses, etc. And you can pull that from a sheet inside of a class presentation for performance reasons. You can do diagrams, word maps, etc. You can add word art, lines. So let's take a look at video. If you want to insert a video, you can search YouTube directly from your slide deck. So you don't have to go out, open up a new tab, go to youtube.com, because you can search here. And it's going to give you your YouTube results directly inside of slides that you can select and add. Or if you have a YouTube video already, then you can directly add that by URL. You can also select videos from your Google Drive that you've already uploaded. So like if you did a screencast or a screen capture, or you have videos uploaded to your Google Drive, then those are also acceptable to select and insert as well. So this is just a Loom screen capture that I created yesterday during one of our presentations. So here it is now into the Google Slide presentation. These videos can also be 4 sides down and be just screen captures of directions or how-tos, etc. And can be played over top of the actual slide presentation itself. So let's go to File. Let's take a look at Publish to the Web. Now, what publishing your slide deck will do to the web, whenever you choose this option, it actually allows you to play that slide presentation in a loop. So you can set this to play. So auto advance slides every 5 seconds. Right? You can start the slideshow as soon as the player loads, and then you can restart the slideshow after the last slide. So this works really great for open house, or if you want to have a link on your class website or Google Classroom, and you want to actually guide those students through audio or video that is presented inside of that Google slide presentation. And whenever you share this link that publishing it to the web creates, then whenever they click and follow that link, then that slide presentation will automatically begin. The videos inside of it will also automatically begin. So if you do a voiceover, insert that video, then that video will play and read to them as that slide presentation plays for them.
I have a question on the video.
Okay? So we have a question on video.
Will this video be added to the Google Class resource?
Yes, all of our video recordings that we do through this Teacher Tech live session and Teacher Tech PD week that we've done will be available in the Google Classroom that we created. We did the Converting Digital Media yesterday, and that video is also there under Distance Learning currently. And this one will be as soon as we finish up and it loads into the YouTube video. Do you have any more questions?
On transitions, but you're going to be getting to that, right? In a couple.
I thought we did transitions.
The question is the transition on the tools section,
Oh, okay.
just where it's located?
You got it. All right, so just to finish up with the publish to the web, you can do a link, you can also embed. So as soon as the player loads, same kind of options. Let's do link. Look at the publish content and settings. One of the options that you have to keep everything restricted into the domain so that you know that only people at henry-schools.net that are accessing your creative material is you can require that. And then you can publish, right? And you say yes. And now you have that link that you can share out to your classroom or your students, and then when they click on this link, then this slide deck will automatically begin to play. So we had a question about where the transitions were located. So if you look at the slide here, you'll see the transition icon here. And whenever you click on that, you will get the side icon pop up that will allow you to manage those transitions. We also have the tools where you can access some of the other options. The Explorer feature, the dictionary of Q&A, history. So here are some very interesting and helpful tools that are available in slides. So you have a voice type speaker notes. Inside of, let's allow this to happen. So inside of Google Slides is that you have the capability for closed captioning, more or less. So as you speak about your slide presentation, then with this option, as you can see, it will type exactly what you say, more or less. And then you can go back and make some small edits. So that way, if you do create a slide presentation and you want to give this presentation to your students and make this presentation accessible to your distance learners, well, you can present this to an in-class student population with this option selected, and then you will have all of your presentation notes already completed for you. You just click save, make some minor changes, and make that accessible in the classroom. So that way, whenever those students access this slide deck later on, they're going to have all of your speaker notes that available and accessible, ready to read, so that they can have it.
So there's a question about publishing to the web,
Sure.
the access and stuff when you are ready for that.
Okay, we have a question about the publishing to the web, which I will address.
If we publish to the web, does anyone have access or just Hendry County?
You have to make sure that whenever you publish that to the web, that link, anybody that has that specific link that you share can access that slide deck. Now, if you choose the option that I showed previously where you can restrict to @henry-schools.net, then even with the link, those people would be required to exist inside of our in-school domain. All right, they would have to have a Google account that would end with @henry-schools.net to access.
On those same lines is, can I share this with my students for a project?
I don't understand.
That was from Miriam. Get her to clarify.
Okay. So we had another question, but I'm not really entirely sure what she means. So we're going to get a clarifying question. In the meantime, we're going to go on with some of the tools available.
Do we require a mic when we speak to record the voice properly? Should we use a mic? What should we use for sound?
So as you notice, whenever I use the voice type speaker notes, I didn't have any other additional mic other than the Chromebook that I'm using right now. So there's no additional equipment plugged into this Chromebook that is allowing access. All I had to do is it gave me a little pop-up, says, Google Slides would like to access your microphone. You click allow, and then you just speak like you normally would.
Is there a time limit? So if we create a video for a class lesson, does the video have a time limit? Is there going to be a max on the time limit?
There are time limits with specific resources that you utilize to create videos. So like, for example, if you use Screencastify, there's a 5-minute time limit. Loom, as of right now, from my understanding, with Loom.com, there are no time limits with Loom.
A couple of people want you to just quickly go back through on how you access the mic and did the
screen?
your notes across, yeah,
Okay, so to do the screen,
the closed
the
caption.
closed caption option, right, you have the voice type speaker notes. So what I'll do is I'll add a new slide and just go over that one more time. So if you're on your slide that you would like to present and add speaker notes to, if you go to Tools, you have voice type speaker notes. When you select that, you will get a microphone that pops up here. And whenever I'm ready to present, I hit the click to speak. Once I hit the click to speak, if this is the first time that you do that, you will get another additional pop-up that will ask for permission to access your microphone. You will need to allow access for Google Slides to access your microphone so that it can record your voice and do the voice to text option inside of the Google Slides.
Before I go on, I have a clarification. So the person that asked about whether they can share this with their students for a project, they want to know if they can share this presentation with their students for a project.
Absolutely, yes. Any video that we produce, you are more than welcome to share with your students so that they become more familiar as well with the tools that are available.
Once you use the mic, does it need to be turned on for each slide? Or can you just...
The speaker notes are available they're only available for each slide. So what I would do is take it and do the voice type speaker notes for each slide individually. So do your presentation for your slide, do this voice type speaker notes for that specific slide, and then go to the next one. Otherwise, I'm afraid it may just go into a one big type. But what we can do is we can run a trial. So let's start here, give this a shot. Okay, so I'm going to try to run through a couple slides with the speaker notes and the text, the speak to text option. So here I have the slide, distance learning expectations. Next slide, notice that I do have to touch, reactivate, and go through. So it is a little simpler than having to go back to the menu item, but you do still have to activate that microphone each time that you switch. And it does start at the beginning. So if you already worked on one, it's going to restart at the beginning.
Someone mentioned that Loom has a 45-minute time limit,
Okay.
which is plenty long,
Yeah.
because they shouldn't be doing longer
So
than.
we did get some input that Loom does have a 45-minute time limit.
But you don't.
My personal belief on that is that you should. We're trying to teach lessons to people that are you know elementary and middle and high school under 18, and their attention level. Well, you're going to lose them way before 45 minutes.
Can you demonstrate how to insert a Loom video?
We do have a different lesson specifically for Loom. We have a question about how to insert Loom. I'm not going to go over
How do you insert a Loom video?
Loom, but
Or maybe just insert video.
so if you go to insert, go to video, then any videos that you save to your drive. So if you go to Loom and have a recording, if you can see this, I have the Loom recording in my drive. I just select my drive, choose a video, insert the video, and then it will populate here for my students in my Google Slide presentation. Okay. All right, let's go through some other tools, because we're not going to have any time to go over Google Forms if we don't wrap up with Google Slides. So let's look at Q&A, history. Let's go to present. So if you notice that whenever you go to present, instead of just clicking on present, you have a drop-down arrow. So you can do presenter view, where you can present with audience Q&A and view your speaker notes. So if you go through this presentation, before you actually present it, and you use your voice-to-text options, then those speaker notes will be available to you as a presenter whenever you do present live. Or you can just present from beginning. So let's take a look at presenter view with audience Q&A and with speaker notes. Okay. So typically, if you're giving a presentation, you will have a projector, so you'll have two different displays. So you can drag your presentation out to another display and then have this little box in front of you so that you can manage your display. Manage your presentation. Have your speaker notes available. And then also utilize audience tools. So here, for example, I can select the slide that I want to go to. It changes that on the presentation screen. And then gives me my speaker notes that I worked on. And then allows me to have audience tools. So I'm going to start new. I'm going to accept questions from Henry Schools. Questions will appear here. Notice that you can also open that up to anyone. You give them this URL to go to, and then you will allow them to have live Q&A that you will be able to see through your audience tools in your Google Slide presentation. So once you go through your speaker notes and your presentation, then you can go to your audience tools and look at the questions that your audience has posed for you to answer. And then you can go to your next slide. Go through your speaker notes, audience tools, questions. There's the link for your Q&A. You can ask a question. This is just to show you what it looks like on the user end for your audience. You can also choose to ask anonymously. So you can share this out with your students, give your presentation, let them ask you questions, do your speaker notes, etc. Exit the presentation mode. And then whenever you're finished with that, you will have access to those questions and tools, Q&A history. And then you can just click on that and take a look at those questions that were asked about your presentation. Ms. Brown, do you have any other questions about slides?
Not now. They asked if there would be written directions with action steps for some of this, and I said we'd look into possibly providing that.
Okay.
But other than that, I think we've got.
And once again, everyone, this video will be accessible on the Google Classroom Tech for Teachers.
And it will have the captions, right?
Everything that's here, yes. All right, so now we're going to jump over to forms. So once again, we're going to access forms through our waffle. Sometimes you do have to scroll down. So you can click on forms. And just like with dogs, just like with slides, you're going to have templates that you can choose from. Forms can be used for a variety of reasons. It can be bell work, it can be exit tickets, it can be quizzes, worksheets, surveys. Forms is an excellent tool to gather information. So we're going to start with a blank form, just so you have an idea. I realize we're running short on time. We have about 12 minutes left. So this is your basic form. I'm not going to spend much time on the customizability of forms, but I will introduce those options to you. So you can customize your themes. You can upload images for your header. So if you, I know one of the big popular things now is the Bitmoji Classroom, where you can go in and you can create your Bitmoji scene and add those to like your Google Classroom background. You can utilize that here as well if you want to create those and add some consistency. You put that effort in to design one of those, which I think they're great. So you can also stick those right here into your Google form. Just choose image, upload those. You can change the color, you can change the background color, you can change the font style. So you do have some formatting options, so that way all of your forms are not this basic purple. You do have a preview option, so that way you can check it out from the student perspective to see what this looks like, especially if you're going into some advanced options here in different sections. In your settings, you have your general. You collect email addresses, which I always recommend. It's important that you remember, if you're doing this for a student quiz, that you need to do more than just collect email addresses, or at least I recommend that you do. And that's because if you collect the student email addresses, that format for email addresses, it's going to be first initial, last initial, student ID. So it's not going to have the student name, right? So I always collect student email addresses, and then the first question that I usually include in my Google form is name, right? So that way, whenever you pull those responses, you're not taking their student ID number or trying to figure out by their initials who that student is. I do like to limit to one response, especially if you're doing a quiz or some type of assessment. If you're using it as a formative assessment, then perhaps maybe you don't want to limit to one response. And you want them to have that feedback and that correct response, and give them the opportunity to go back and make those corrections. Then you would have edit after submit. And you can also allow them to see summary charts, text responses. So you can change the presentation of your form. So you can show progress bars. You can also shuffle question order. So that way, if you have a classroom, if you're giving out an assessment or quiz in your classroom, and you do have a full classroom of students, then you can shuffle that question order so it eliminates some of the cheating that may occur. So that way, the students that are sitting right next to each other are less likely to have the same question on their screen. You can change the confirmation message if you want it to be more personalized. Now, you can also make forms a quiz and place those in quiz mode. One of the great new features that came out last year with forums is that you can turn on locked mode on Chromebooks. What's really important to remember, though, is that if you turn on locked mode, students can only access the Google form on a district-provided device. So if they are at home on a personal device and you tell them to take an assignment or an assessment with a Google form link, and you have activated this, or you check this turn on lock mode box, then that student will not be able to access that quiz from a personal device. So they have to have a school-issued Chromebook in order to do so. So if that's not the situation, then you want to leave that off. And then you want to monitor that quiz through other means, like for GoGuardian, for example. And you can still lock that in through an assessment scene that you may create in GoGuardian. And then you can choose how grades are released. You can choose what the respondent can see based on their responses. And then you can save that. Okay, so inside of this, you give the title, and then you can do your questions. So this is just a sample of the multiple choice. Notice that you do have different question types here. So you can have short answer, paragraph, check boxes, you can do drop downs. You can also do file uploads. So you can choose, for example, you can have a picture and then you can ask questions about that picture. You can insert a YouTube video and then you can ask questions about that video. So there's there's a wide variety of question types that you can insert inside of the Google form. There's also linear scales, timelines, etc. You do grids, checkboxes, date and time formats specific to that. So you can import questions. If you have from another Google form, for example, or you're working together collaboratively, add images. Here's where you add your YouTube videos. And then you can also add sections. So just to touch base on this section part, what I have seen done, and I've done myself, works really well, is if you add a section. So notice it says section 1 of 2. So here's section 2 of 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a practice session, or section. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a formative assessment. This isn't one of those gotcha types of scenarios where I'm trying to get a hard grade. What I'm trying to do is make sure that my students are understanding the concepts that I'm presenting. So let's say that I'm going to do, in this question, if they have what they have here, I'm going to edit. I have the answer key, so I can change that to so what we have the answer to. Okay, and then you could add answer feedback. Correct answer, correct answer. You can send them to videos as well. So if they get the incorrect answer, you can provide them with a video tutorial on how to, that will go back over that concept that you were trying to have them learn. I'm going to take off the quiz just for a moment.
We have a couple questions right now.
Okay. All right, so here I'm going to go to section based on answer. All right, so if they choose yes, well, that's the incorrect answer. So I'm going to make them, if they choose yes, go to the practice section. So now they'll come down here to the practice section, and then I'm going to include some additional practice for them so they can go back to question 1 and answer that question correctly. So we have some questions. I'm going to answer those before our time's up.
How can I receive a notice when someone responds to my Google Forms?
That's a good question. So in responses, you have accepting responses. Get email notifications for new responses. You select that and you will get an email every time someone submits.
Next question. Can you quickly go back to where you would import questions you previously generated? And does this work if you have questions generated in a Word doc?
There's an extension that helps kind of speed that process up. Like if you have questions in a Word doc, or if you want to take a doc and the questions that you put in a doc into a form, it's called Doc to Form. So if you go to the Chrome Web Store and you type in Doc to Form, then it will allow you to do a quick side-by-side inside of a window pane where you can copy and paste real fast. And that's kind of really nice for that type of scenario. So let's go to this import function. So notice that you have to, this is a new account. It's called Teacher Tech account. We created it just for this live streaming purpose. This is the very first form that I've created with it. So if I had other forms to select from, then I would have those forms listed here to where I could import those questions. Any other questions? Okay. So, if you've never used forms before, or if you've never used slides, it's just like with anything else new. It does take some time to become familiar with these tools. I assure you that once you do become familiar with them, you'll love them because they grade these quizzes for you. They give you instantaneous results so where you see your performance. Whenever you choose over to responses, you'll have pie graphs of responses. You can choose individual responses and go through those, or you can see the summary of the class responses. You also have the ability to choose this green icon, which is the Google Sheet icon, which will pull all of the response information out of the form itself and into a Google Sheet so that you can manipulate that data and format it so that in various different ways so that you can manage that data in ways that you would like to see it. You choose that response, you can download it in CSV, you can delete responses, you can manage those responses, and allow students to retake, etc. So those are some additional options that you have here. It gives you that really quick data that you need in order to make informed decisions about instruction without taking, the time out of your day and the days that it would require to grade all of those assessments and assignments. And then by the time it comes back to reteaching that topic, well, it's usually too late to be beneficial.
There's a really good question about, can you create a form that repeats every morning? So like a check-in form, without having to recreate it for every day?
What I like to do is make copies. So it's just like any other Google form or document that you use. So if you want to create something that you want to repeat, like a daily check-in form or an exit form, then you want to keep a master copy of that form, right? And what you do is you just make a copy. So if this was my master copy, then I would make a copy. And then I would keep that as a copy, right? And then I would just switch it over. So that way, that master copy, I could just go in and make a copy of it each time I needed it without having to go in and recreate a form every time that I wanted to utilize it. And then inside of Classroom, which we'll go into Google Classroom, you can schedule posts. So inside of those scheduled postings, then you could just make a copy of your master form, insert that into your scheduled post, and then have that scheduled post come up every day with new versions of your check-in.
It's time.
And we are all out of time. I just want to thank everyone for participating. We will continue on. Our next session today will be converting to digital material, and it will start at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.